Off top. Never mind. Let's just get to the show. Wait a minute.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.
Welcome to the Domonique Foxworth Show. A little behind the curtains. This is our second started show because we tried to do some irreverent, fun discussion off the top last time, and Charlie just got on my nerves. And so we turned it off, started over. We started a new show. We don't need an off top. Get right to the. Let's get right to the.
One thing,
no,
hand
I don't
up,
want
hand
up.
It's accountability. I was really bad. Apologies to Domonique. My bad.
No. And now, telling us accountability, I was really bad, is also sidetracking us. Let's get to the.
Okay, Domonique texted me this morning, and he was like, let's do something different than just what everyone's talking about on these stories. Because the story coming in midweek of week 2, between week 2 and week 3 of the NFL season, is obviously been about Joe Burrow and his toe injury and what that could mean for the Bengals season, but then extrapolating that further. We have a lot of quarterbacks who were injured in the first 2 weeks of the season. We have Brock Purdy out 2 to 5 weeks. We have J.J. McCarthy out 2 to 4 weeks with a high ankle sprain. We have Jayden Daniels iffy for week 3 for a banged up knee. We have Justin Fields with concussion. His status is unsure of moving forward. That's like a fifth of the league is struggling with their quarterback health at the most prominent position. And it's really hard. We're not doctors. We're not going to do the thing where we're going to prognosticate about their returns, their effectiveness of returns. But I do think this brings up an interesting thing that you've brought up, which is the NFL has made it the most important thing in the league to protect their quarterbacks, to have these guys on the field because it's so important for the product. And despite these rule changes, it feels like maybe even harder to keep a modern quarterback healthy because what's asked of the position. And Domonique, when you thought of that, where did that take you? What grabbed you about it?
This got my attention because the conversation started with a question that Greeny was asking me this morning about if we should expand the rules to protect the quarterbacks even more. And of course, I laughed in his face. It was like, I don't know that we can do that anymore. We can do any more to protect quarterbacks. And like, I appreciate how important quarterbacks are to the marketing of the game. They're essentially the only stars from team to team to team that everyone knows. People will tune in for quarterbacks more than any other position. I get that. So I'm not scoffing at it as some sort of football like guy that's like, oh, whatever, we got to be tough. Like, I recognize how difficult it is for defense, but what I started to think about was how, and we've done shows on in general about unintended consequences, but I think that one of the unintended consequences of the many rule changes that we've made to make the game safer for quarterbacks and also to make the game faster and more exciting and spread out and pass focused, I think it is also created an environment that encourages more quarterbacks that put their body at risk. So like, I'm not arguing that the rules to protect the quarterback have made quarterbacks less safe. I'm arguing that the rules to protect the quarterback has made the league more conducive for the type of quarterbacks that will extend plays and get themselves in trouble. And I think we see that through the draft. And I think Caleb Williams is probably the best, most recent example that we are now looking for. I remember entering these drafts that we value the creativity of a quarterback, the ability to buy time and make ridiculous plays. We value it a lot more than we did in the past. And I think growing up watching football,
I think we look at arm talent different. It's not just because I think you're thinking just legs now with a lot of that stuff, moving the pocket. No. But I actually think that like when you bring up Caleb, that's really interesting to me because arm talent off
it's the
platform.
Combination.
Yes. Yeah. And that's what people are looking for. Yeah.
And it's the willingness to be in these awkward positions and the desire to do it. And we've seen that Joe Burrow is the guy who's been injured the most. And we know everyone who's followed it knows that he plays that way intentionally. We know that the offensive line is not great, but we also know that he is open about wanting to extend plays and wanting to buy time and being willing to take the aggressive hits. And I don't think it's an obvious one-to-one that these type of quarterbacks get hurt in these specific type of ways. But I do think we're prioritizing a different thing in our quarterbacks. And I think our quarterbacks are more prone to hold on to the ball or quarterbacks who are more prone to hold onto the ball are more likely to make it to the NFL because of the way that the game has changed. And I kind of feel like, I guess I don't know what the numbers say if quarterback injuries are up in the modern age or if they're down or if they're right where they've always been. But I certainly don't feel like, especially this week, I don't feel like quarterbacks are safer. I think in the 90s when I grew up watching football, and even when I entered the league, the pocket passer was still kind of the focal point of like the traditional, like non-athletic 6'5" pocket pass. Don't make that face at me, Charlie. No, I'm not saying what you think I'm saying, so stop it. That was the prototypical quarterback. And I think it was because the game for them was get rid of the ball quickly, make fast decisions, don't buy time, don't get hit. Because if you're going to get hit, like there's no protection. You get hit in the head, like. And I just think that the way that the rules changed, the way that the game has changed, has sent us in a direction that has different type of quarterbacks that expose themselves and the ability to stay healthy while doing that, which is partially luck, partially just like the way bodies are made, and partially like staying safe and protecting yourself, which brings us to your boy, Jayden Daniels.
Well, like, hold on. Before we go through that, like, look, part of it, you're talking about the guys who played like an incredibly long time. And I know that Rodgers is somewhere between these guys. The fact that he was very mobile, he was sort of first of his kind. But, Brady and Manning, both Mannings were like kings of the self sack. If they saw pressure coming, they would just drop like a sack of potatoes. And it's like, I'm sure it's frustrating to a lot of people where they couldn't escape the way that you like someone like Kyler Murray or Lamar. Like Lamar is maybe the greatest example of an athlete we've seen, him or Russell Wilson, who are just able to like never get a straight shot on them. I mean, and I know Russ's body is broken down maybe faster than we thought it was going to be 5 years ago, but those guys seem like very unique in the fact that they don't really get hit, despite being the fact that they can move the pocket, manipulate defensive lines, and be runners and passers. First of all, the Burrow one is interesting to me. He's had 3 massive injuries now: the ACL, MCL, meniscus, the wrist injury. I don't even want to scapholate injury, which is like he was the first quarterback to have and recover from. That's an injury we see in car accidents, and like we've seen it end tennis players' careers because serving, it's very difficult to pronate with that. And Burrow came back from that. And he's now had this turf toe injury. He had the calf in training camp on the run when he was, I think that was the first day of training camp when he had that. All 3 of his major injuries have been in the pocket. All 3 of them have been climbing the pocket with good footwork with stuff. So I'm not saying it's not that he's trying to be mobile or evade the rush or extend plays, but it is kind of funny that it's not what we think of. It's not him running a read option and getting out to the second level and just getting wrecked and having a safety, having Bernard Pollard come down and like destroy his knees. So I did want
Bernard Pollard knee destruction was in the pocket also, and I think that
not on Gronk or Edelman.
Oh yeah, not on Gronk. I thought you were talking about the Brady.
The Brady one. He's just.
We're talking about quarterbacks.
Killer.
I think it's a fair point, but I think it's just also exposure, and extending plays doesn't mean running.
Totally.
I think it does mean being comfortable. So I think being comfortable in the pocket, and the Andrew Luck thing was like 7-step drops is something that you rarely even see anymore. But he'd be in the pocket and someone would jump through his chest because he'd be willing to hold on to the ball.
Well, and part of this, do you think that part of this also is just one, like, I guess it's harder to, with this play style, play injured in certain ways, because also the other part of this, we both watched the Cowboys documentary.
That's fair.
And we saw Troy Aikman, who his play style was not that of Joe Burrow or Jayden Daniels or JJ McCarthy. Obviously, it's just different the way he played. But we saw he didn't remember an NFC Championship game. He was out cold, just playing through crazy injuries. I felt like every clip we saw of him in that thing, he looked like covered in ice packs and had cuts all over his body. I
think that's the point I was making about playing the position back then. It was, I feel like the amount of violence and risk that's in the position that hasn't really changed. It's just been moved. if that makes sense. Like I think they've tried to protect them in certain ways. And to your point, like Justin Fields would have finished this game and played and been starting again next week if we like treated concussions the way that we did before. So that exists in a way that impacts this also. But I don't know. I don't think that there is a right answer for it. And I guess that feels unsatisfying for me to come in with like a theory and not have a solution. But
No,
I feel like
that's
because
more
we're
realistic. It's just a different way to
always,
view the issue.
yeah, I mean, we're always going to optimize for success. And of course, there are other components which you were making the face. We didn't go down the path of me protecting the pocket passer. There are other components for decisions that were being made. But I think that one of the components, if we're always trying to optimize for success, then you're going to use the rules the way that you can use the rules. And if they're going to protect the quarterback, we're going to find then the quarterback's going to be more likely to hold onto the ball longer and do more things with it, which then leads us to get more and more quarterbacks who are more comfortable doing it.
Yeah. And it's also like when I ask you, like, what's the key to a good offense now? Your thing is like, you're not as scared of an offense if it doesn't have explosives.
Big plays. Yeah.
And so
explosive plays.
when there's a jailbreak and an extended play and quarterbacks have good chemistry with receivers and things and open up downfield when they can't be covered that long and they're extending a play or it's like another run, it's like a cheat code for explosives. And it's like there's value to it for these teams with extending these plays. I will say, and we can go through some of these specific things, it does make me concerned for the amount that Patrick Mahomes is already running this season. It does make me concerned. And like, look, we thought like Cam Newton is like the greatest specimen we've ever seen playing quarterback. And we saw his body break down. Andrew Luck was 6'4", 240 and ran like a deer. And we saw his body break down. So like, I'm knocking on wood literally for that none of these guys get injured because it just ruins NFL seasons when the guys who are this good get injured. But it does, to your point, when you see some of these guys get hurt and fall this way, like it does make you just like really hope and like do the hold your breath when like Josh Allen or Mahomes run. And like, it also shows how incredible it is with Lamar that like, I never feel that way. And again, knock on wood, I shouldn't say that. Like, it's just like, he is so his spatial awareness, and people talk about Patrick Mahomes' spatial awareness, like his understanding of angles and being able to throw the ball cross body and lead receivers. Lamar's ability to do that with avoiding hits and understanding like the speed of people. I mean, I've never seen a football player like that ever.
And I think Jalen Hurts' probably body type is more running back than anything. So I think he's probably comfortable with taking the hits in a way. And Patrick Mahomes also has a sturdier build than somebody like Jayden Daniels. But to your point about the Patrick Mahomes thing is, it's not just so. I think that there are some quarterbacks who do not have an innate ability to avoid contact. There are some quarterbacks who have the ability to get blown up all the time, which again is your
Jayden
boy,
Daniels and Burrow. It's an LSU thing.
Yeah, those guys find a way to get blown up, and I think we also have some talent for guys, or not talent, but like an instinct for guys to know when to get down and to know when it's time to sell out. I say all that to bring you back to the Mahomes discussion. We normally don't see him run this much unless it is like
postseason. Yeah.
Late in the season, important games, late in the game at least. He's running in the first quarter of these games at I guess we should look it up and see if it's a different amount, but it certainly feels like he's playing the playoff way right now. And then I'll add another dynamic to it. I've had him pull some video for one of the sports centers I did, because Mahomes has tried to run over people and succeeded once in both of his first two games. Like, and this is not, to me, that's not about trying. And it wasn't even like he was trying to get through the goal line or anything like that. Like, that just feels like it's just like he's making a statement.
It feels like he's deeply frustrated with the offense. Like he had the touchdown run after he had trucked someone in that game. And by the way, if you go back and look at the all 22 of that, unless you're an Eagles fan, because you should see what Jalen Carter did on that play where he just literally quit on a stunt and let Patrick Mahomes get the edge and run 20 yards in for a touchdown. But you saw Travis Kelce say, I'm sick of this on the sideline of Mahomes running for his life. So like my guess is the running is frustration. Like obviously he's a competitor. He didn't want to be 0-2 and they had a brutal start to the season, but like he's running because he wants this team to be in the postseason, have a chance for this stuff. Like he hasn't, like you want to talk about innate sense for the moment. Like Mahomes understands game script and situation better than anyone. And like he's running because he feels like he has to, because he doesn't want to throw the ball to Tyquan Thornton.
That's my same read on that. Or I was just going to make a joke and say that he's trying to get knocked out of the game because he doesn't want to. He's sick of it. So, but
then he has to spend more time with Mahomes.
That's not okay. That joke is not funny. Neither of them are funny, especially now after. I think you're right that it is also about exhibiting some level of frustration that he is feeling with the consistent underachieving of the offense. So yeah, I don't know what the final answer is. Do you have any hope that I keep trying to land on your boy, but you won't allow us to talk?
No, I want to talk about the Daniels stuff. Yeah, for sure.
Do you have any hope that he's going to stop getting flipped and blown up, or do you just accept that it's going to be that way forever?
No, I do. I think that he did a better job last season. I mean, that was one of the concerns about drafting him is if you look at his tape from LSU, I'm sure you've seen it. It's a YouTube video. It's comical how he was getting hit at LSU. And last year he had the hit where he was dragged down from behind and it looked like he could have had an ankle because his toe got stuck in the ground, an ankle or a knee injury. And he's just very young and flexible. So he was able to escape it. He had the ribs last year. He now is day-to-day with the knee this year. I do have hope of it because he's clearly someone who has made attempts to improve his game in certain ways and be more in control. And I don't know if it's a learnable skill. Do you remember in DC when RG3 was here? And I loathe the RG3 Jayden Daniels comparisons, but that was when Bryce Harper was a rookie and they're like, Bryce Harper is going to teach him how to slide. Like, I don't think it's that. I don't think it's like a knowing how to slide thing. I do think that situationally he can improve in that. And it's like none of these injuries, like he's been a relatively durable player despite the hits we're taking. And like, this is your account that it's just a matter of time until that's not the case. But I do think he's shown the ability to prioritize doing the right things. And I think that should be one of his priorities.
I think some people's bodies are like more resilient, and maybe he has one of those bodies. And of course, time changes all that stuff. I still think there's no reason to take some of the hits that he takes. Of course, yeah. But this weekend, would you, as a fan of the team, what would you want? You want to play him, or do you
sweats,
think
baby? Put him in sweats.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, I was surprised. I expected a different. This is just abundance of caution because you're not accustomed to having nice things.
Abundance of caution. Where like the Commanders are playing the Raiders, and like I think that the NFC is. Sorry, I'm just making sure. The Raiders are playing the Commanders at home. This is a home game. Geno Smith is considerably worse outside than he is in a dome.
He was bad in the dome.
He was bad in the dome. Like, and I think that this is a winnable game, even with Mariota in this offense, where we can do certain things. And I think that the priority of keeping Jayden Daniels healthy later in the season and not having this thing linger, like they played on a Thursday night. If he doesn't play this weekend because he's not 100% and it's something where he needs a bit more time, it's a 17-day break. That's a really nice break to get right going into the rest of the year. And it's like, of course you want to the Commanders aren't playing a fourth place schedule anymore. You have to win the gimmies against teams like that you should beat, that you're favored in. And I know that I'm not saying the Raiders are a gimme. They have a really good coach. They have a revamped quarterback situation, but you want to win this game. But still, I think you have to look at the big picture, which is that if you have a player like Jayden Daniels, who is, I still think, the best quarterback in the conference, despite the fact he got outplayed considerably by Jordan Love in their last game. Having him healthy at the end of the season and having the offense gel is the most important thing. Even if you're 9-8, even if you're on the verge of the playoffs, like you're nothing. What did Tom Moore used to say about Peyton Manning? Why he took every snap in practice?
We don't practice screwed.
We don't practice. Yes, thank you for not needing a bleep. We don't practice bleep. And like to me, that's like long term. That's what you have to do. You're talking about like, is he ever going to learn this? Like, is it going to derail his career? Well, what's really going to derail his career is playing him on a bad wheel.
Yeah, the people in Washington are particularly attuned to that type of risk because that was the last savior they had, who was nothing like this one.
Yeah.
Playing while injured. So
can we talk about a couple of the other ones within this quarterback stuff before we move on? Do you think the Vikings are going to be JJ McCarthy's at 2 to 4 weeks? He has been Tebowian in week 1 where he won this game and pulled it out of his keister. And we thought, it was his debut. He had been through a lot. And amazing guile, moxie, whatever you want to say about it. Winner guy stuff. But in 7 of the 8 quarters he's played so far in an incredibly quarterback-friendly system, of course, he doesn't have Christian Jarasaw, but he has Justin Jefferson. He has KOC. He has a pretty good defense. He's looked very out of his depth. He's now out 2 to 4 weeks. Do you expect the Vikings to play better with Carson Wentz than they did with JJ McCarthy on the quarterback stuff?
Yeah, I do expect them to play better.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't expect it to be so much better that it becomes an issue. I think when he's healthy, they'll come back. The problem would be if he comes back, if they play better and then he comes back and it's still bad. And then there'll be some real questions. But I don't think the Sam Darnold thing will ever come up again, because I think they moved on from Sam Darnold in part because of Sam Darnold, not only about how good they felt about J.D. McCarthy. It was because they realized that they were in position to sign a guy who had a ceiling that was apparent to them. And they're like, we don't want to sign that. So I don't think that'll come up. I'm sure people are right about it and talk about it, but that's going to be a real question, is when he comes back, because I assume Carson Wentz will do just fine in the system. My guess is that veteran quarterbacks are probably more comfortable and seeing what Kevin O'Connell wants them to see. So
Do you think Dan Orlovsky is doing the Birdman meme for you guys to be on Get Up, to be like, oh man, Wentz and KOC, I can start comparing him to Dak again?
No, I think Dan moved on from the Wentz. Dan's like us. It takes a while, but Dan, like us, is comfortable admitting when he is wrong. And I think he did admit that he was wrong, but
I'd hope so, dude.
He might come back. No, some people don't. Some people will find a reason to blame everything else other than say they just had a bad take.
Yeah.
Like, I was wrong about that.
Yeah. I think, of course, we know those people.
You don't know anybody like that. I know. All your friends just highest integrity and admit that they are wrong. So accountable.
I know that you think that you've said before that you think being wrong is a kink of mine. You might be right.
Yeah, you and I both are cool with being wrong. It's fun.
Can I ask you about the Burrow thing? Like, there have been so many Andrew Luck comparisons. I think that's like a little bit like too soon. We don't know if I don't think Burrow's like retiring from the turf toe thing. And you and I have both had turf toe. You had it as an NFL player. I had it as a recreational tennis player.
It sucks. It sucks no matter what.
It sucks so much. I think it's so funny. Like the branding of it, you're like, it's your toe. Like you kind of can't, and his is a huge torn ligament that needs to be repaired. You kind of can't do anything without your big toe. And so like it's a really rough injury and it's incredibly painful. But do you think Burrow's going to turn 30 next season? He's going to miss almost all of this season. He'll have missed huge chunks of 3 of his 6 seasons in the NFL. When he's on the field, like I still believe that he's as good as pretty much anyone. Like I really believe that. So just situationally agnostic, he is that level of player. But it's starting to feel like the Bengals have wasted this career, and it's starting to feel like I don't know how long he has left as an elite quarterback, just because we are seeing injuries pile up, and like all of these are serious. Like the wrist injury, when you have doctors being like, we see this in car accidents, we don't know if you can come back from this. When you have the knee injury and it's like, this is multi-ligament, this is not a standard thing that they're fixing. When you have the turf toe where it's like, this is as bad of a toe foot injury as you can get. It just feels like if I told you Burrow has 3 more peak years as a top level quarterback until he's like 32 years old or 33 years old, would you look at that and say, that's more than I think, less than I think, or about spot on?
Yeah, I'd probably say less, but not. I get your point. So the wrist one is hard to like discuss because we don't know, we don't have much to draw on from other athletes.
Where you're literally comparing it to Dominic Thiem and Nick Kyrgios, which are tennis players who both more or less had to retire, but that's a complete. He doesn't have a racket.
Right. So like it's hard to project. I guess there's two questions there. Is like, are the current injuries that he's had, are those going to inhibit him to the degree that he can't be the player that we expect him to be? The other question is he just going to continue to get injuries? And so like the amount of arthritis, which is normally what like sets in, or like stiffness that sets in, like how long does that take to take an impact on the current injuries? Like, I have no idea, but it seems like it would take longer than the time period that you laid out. But given how often he's been injured, like, it's hard for me to credibly suggest that they're not gonna be more injuries coming in the next few years. So
Yeah.
I think you probably set a pretty good over under number. I'd probably go over just because I assume that at some point he's gonna have a stretch of 4 or 5 healthy years in a row, and then maybe after that, then it's just the age and wear and tear slows him down some. And it could be that he's so dependent on his athleticism that it changes the way that he plays. But I think early in this, before you got to the final version of the question you were going to ask, you talked about where the Bengals failed him. And as much as I love an opportunity on the Bengals, I think it's probably more a product of his play style than it is the lack of quality offensive line play, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, they've tried. They've spent money on it. They've invested draft picks in it. And like everyone points at the Sewell thing, taking Jamar Chase. Oh, no, you drafted a Hall of Fame receiver who's like one of the 12 best guys I've ever seen play the position. Like, it's just, it's silly. And like, I think Penei Sewell is an unbelievable right tackle, and he's
I mean, that wouldn't change this.
It doesn't feel like it would. That's what I was gonna say. It's like it's one piece that wouldn't. And I know with offensive line play, getting another guy out there that can put everyone else in a better position makes a huge difference. But it doesn't feel like it would change this. It doesn't feel like it would affect this. It's just a really big bummer, and I know that like it just feels like this dude every time he's been on the field has been on a Hall of Fame track. And it just feels like there's just always something with him and this team. And like, I hate it. I hate it. Cause it's like, he was also the one dude early in his career. And I know that you would scoff at this, but he was the one dude who was actually beating Mahomes in the postseason. And I know it's like a small sample, but like
it's actually true. So
yeah.
like, I mean, I wouldn't scoff at the idea that that's a fact. I think, I scoff at the idea that puts him in the same category as the other two guys who like I kind of think are better and have been better, but then we do like this big moment thing, and it's like, okay, you got me beat.
And no, now I think it's
like
now I think it's objective. But like this, like when you're rehabbing instead of practicing, when you're rehabbing instead of training, when your body changes, like it's really freaking hard. Like I think Joe Burrow, like if you told me 3 years ago, did I think he was as good as Allen and Jackson? I was like, hell yeah, he's right there. But like, it's like now those two, I mean, they look.
I mean, he had a great year last year.
Yeah. I don't know how many shows we can get into where I say that I think that Josh Allen and Lamar are playing at like the highest level I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean,
the over under on this season is like 30. It might be twice a week until January.
Yeah, this is a little odd way to segue, but CJ Stroud was in the Monday night game, and I watched him, and he's someone who hasn't been protected well in the past couple seasons, and they haven't addressed the issue.
We made it worse this year, it feels like.
Yeah. I mean, got rid of Laramie Tunsil to help your team out. But I was thinking about this, and I talked about this a little bit on Mina's podcast, is the thing that's really frustrating about their inability to protect their quarterback is it was bad last year. It got worse or whatever. They didn't do anything to make it better this year. They did things that potentially make it worse this year.
Yeah, that was the thing. Where do you think they'd get better to have better play calling, but situational football?
The thing that I wanted to highlight is there are ways around having a bad offensive line. But the problem is they have a quarterback who I think his best trait is taking chunks of yardage down the field with his arm. And it would seem like the style of quarterback that he is would need an offensive line more than just about any other quarterback, because that's what he does that I think is pretty impressive that people get excited about. And they don't have the line to protect him. And again, Nico Collins, the type of receiver that he is the same type of receiver that, so like, I feel like they're a good match in Stroud and Collins.
Nico Collins is unbelievable. Maybe the most underrated player. Like, I mean, not by us, but like, I feel like you never think of him in that team. He is incredible.
I guess I just say that to say that it's not it frustrates me because it seems like it's super important. And they don't do a bunch of like screens and short passes, which would take pressure off of him. But I understand, like Stroud, I got Stroud. I don't want to do a bunch of screens and short passes. So this like is connected to the quarterback injury conversation or quarterback protection injury conversation a little bit. But I just don't know what the hell they're doing. And they're playing some great defense. Like they're fun, physical to watch on defense. But I want
to ask you about the defense thing, because that would be something I imagine this would drive you nuts. They have a Super Bowl defense, and they are fast. Like they're like,
so physical.
So like Anderson and Daniil Hunter, and like they are flying around, and that defensive line is it feels like they have all of these guys that can put their foot in the ground, bend, and get upfield and get to the quarterback, and they're so fast and physical. And it feels like that game, them even giving up 20 points felt like that was a result of the offensive line not being able to block.
Yeah, there's a couple things. So Stingley and Lassiter are great, and Alshire and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson are coming downhill and blowing up everything as if they don't care about their own bodies. I think that all should be there. Their blitz packages were incredible and are incredible. But where they came up short, and the offense let them down some, but where they blew this game to me was penalties.
Which they had last year. That's part of the reason they traded Tunsil.
Well, this is defensively. Yeah. Defensively, they a lot of drives were extended because of penalties in the Monday night game and missed tackles, which you don't expect from a defense that's as good as they are and as physical as they are. Those are two things that I think we're not talking about after that game that we should be aware of. As great as this defense is, the Bucs ran the ball on them, in part because they had a tough time tackling and they kept getting penalties. And they, like on the 4th and 10, Mayfield broke a tackle, and he did it like multiple times when it's a blitz coming clean. Another thing, this is just unrelated. We can move on, but I was slightly disappointed. I guess it's a result of me not being on Twitter very much, but I didn't hear today anybody talking about how ridiculously foolish Baker Mayfield's 2-point conversion attempt was. Like, no one talked about it. It's like so dumb. They were up by 1 point with 6 seconds left. It's okay to not convert the 2-point conversions. He is in the grasp, going down for a sack, and just throws the ball up in the middle of the end zone. And it's a 2-point play, guys. If somebody intercepts that, it takes it back. You're now trailing with 6 seconds left and kicking the ball off. Like, just run the ball in, or take a knee, or take the sack. Did he not understand the situation? I guess no one cares because they won, but that was an insane play.
Well, it's also just like, we're all just happy that Baker's out there being a lunatic.
Right.
Having
he was great.
He literally healed his body by being able to talk in that game. Like, multiple times he went down injured and popped up and was like, I have the antidote to this. It's just getting in a DB's face and telling him, you can't bring me down.
It was always Chauncey. I felt like it was always
CJGJ. So we are taping this on Tuesday, and we don't want to just do the recap, even though we have talked about the Texans now and the Bucs a decent amount. But there were 2 Monday night games. Both of them were very interesting because, the Bucs are one of the teams that's played the Eagles well. Tristan Wirfs will come back. Baker has put together a string now for several years of good football. And the Chargers really dominated the Raiders, turned Geno over 3 times. They looked really good in week 1 against the Chiefs. And so if I were to ask you this, to spin it forward for a Wednesday conversation, based on what we've seen so far this season from these Monday night teams, who do you think is the bigger threat to be a Super Bowl team, the Bucs or the Chargers?
So you didn't ask me who I think was better, which is different because this question takes into account the division and the conference and who I think is more likely to get a first round bye and who I think has a better chance of running through the talent on their side. And so, like, I think it's obvious. It's as good as the Chargers' defense has been and impressive as as Herbert has been at times in this season. I think they are very good, but it's hard for me to look at the AFC. And as much as we've been critical of the Chiefs, like, they still had to beat at least two of the Ravens, the Bills, and the Chiefs. And that, to me, because I think I might say, I actually don't know who I think is better. I might even say that I think I know my answer. My answer is the Bucs, I think, have a better chance of making it to the Super Bowl, because right now we're looking at the Packers. We don't know how good they are, but they look like they're really great. And we have an Eagles team that is super talented, of course, and battle tested, but the Bucs beat them in the playoffs a couple of years ago. It's not a team that they can't beat. So I
They
see
beat them in the
that
regular season last year too.
Yeah. Oh, but that's right. It began early in the regular season before they started to figure out what to do with the blitz. But
I think that was the last game that Jalen Hurts lost as a starter, where he started and finished the game. If I might be wrong about that, I'm just going off the top of my head. I think that's correct, though.
Probably right. So, yeah, I mean, there are good teams in the NFC. It's not the way that it felt last year, but like the Seahawks might get better, but it's the quarterback position. All the teams in the NFC that we think are really good, none of them have the quarterbacks that we have. I mean, I guess Matt Stafford fits in that category, but he may or may not be healthy.
Stafford loved Daniels, and there's huge amounts of questions about the Rams and the Commanders.
Right. So, I mean, I think the answer has to be Baker. And, I mean, I can't assume that his turnover situation he's got under control after, he just happened to knock the ball out of his own hand. Like, I feel like the fumbles, they just got lucky, and he gives people chances to catch interceptions. So that might still be a problem. But I just feel more confident. And they started season 2-0, and they still don't have Wirfs back. Like, they'll get players back and get even better. So, yeah, I think that the right answer, I don't know which team is better, but I think I'd rather be in contention in the NFC than in the AFC.
I think this is the right answer. I really do like what the Chargers are building, and I think Harbaugh's an incredible coach, and Herbert seems like he's starting to really. I mean, he's been really good since he came into the NFL. I'm not doing the thing where I'm like pretending it was just a nerds thing, but he seems like he's really maybe gone up a level this season so far, where he's been fun. And this is without Rashawn Slater. Like, we thought that their season could be like submarine with the fact that you lose one of the best left tackles in the NFL. And Joe Alt moved over to the other side, and Joe Alt he's an incredible player. Maybe, but it's still
would have been a left tackle if Rashawn Slater wasn't already there. Right.
But it's still, you're still losing a bookend where you had two of them, and like that was going to be a huge part of what they do. But I think the answer is the Bucs, and I think you're right about it being wide, just because going through the Bills and the Ravens and potentially the Chiefs feels a lot like when people tried to break through and win a Grand Slam in tennis in the 2000s and 2010s, where there was a big three of Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic. And it was sort of just like, if you ended up on the draw with a side of the draw with two of them, it was so draw dependent where it'd be like, oh my God, I have to beat Djokovic in the quarters and then Federer in the semis. And what do I get to win this? I get Nadal on clay and in the final at Roland Garros. If I get through these other two superheroes. And it feels like, since you have these three first ballot Hall of Fame quarterbacks, you're going to have to probably go through back to back to back, depending on your draw. It just feels like that division, that whole conference is DOA for anyone out of those top three. So that's why I think you're right.
If you're able to win a Super Bowl going through all three of those teams, like, I feel like you should get a second trophy on the spot. Like, if that's your resume, your resume is, I rip through these three and then beat, Hurts and the Eagles, or Love and the Packers. Like, you should get a jumbo trophy.
Yeah, David Nalbandian should come give you the trophy.
I got a question for you, a tennis question that you brought up. The distance between the previous big three and Sinner and Alcaraz, like, not the distance between them, but the distance between everyone else in them? Is the distance bigger between Sinner and Alcaraz and everyone else than the previous big three and everyone else?
I think it's so. The big three was around for 20 years, so I think it's like there's layers to it because I think that ebbed and flowed over time. Like the distance in the early, like when they all like in the mid 2000s to like 2010 when it was just Federer and Nadal. I don't know if the gap was ever bigger than that. Like they went to 11 Grand Slam finals against each other. Like it was just like unbelievable. And Federer would only lose to Nadal, and Nadal was winning like. I mean, he won everything on clay. I do think, though, when those guys peak, I think the distance is going to be even bigger because the rest of the top 10 isn't even close to them. Like if Alcaraz gets consistent, he's the best tennis player of all time.
I'm a sucker. I only asked you that question so I could yell "Who cares" and end the show, but then I actually was interested in the answer.
Well, that's because you like super athletes, and like watching Carlos Alcaraz is like watching a mix between Baryshnikov and Tyreek Hill on a tennis court.
But you would acknowledge that it would have been much better if I was there. Who cares? This is the Domonique Foxworth Show. Thank you, Charlie, for joining us. Thank you to all the great producers. We out. That would have been better.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.